It started with a vision for how the internet should work, how it could work.
It really should be possible for anyone to just kind of wave their hand and carve out a piece of cyberspace and create a world of their own.
But the technology to achieve such a vision simply did not exist.
There's no way that you can have really high throughput and also have all these security and fairness properties. I was able to convince myself it's not possible. And I set it aside, and it would come back and haunt me. And it would keep nagging at me. And so I would pick it up again and set it aside again. And this kept going for years.
3 years later, Lehman had a breakthrough, the Hashgraph consensus algorithm. In 2015, Mance and Lehman founded Swirls to battle-test the algorithm in private permissioned environments. And the following year, Lehman published the technical paper. But in order to realize the vision of a fairer, more secure digital future for all, the world needed a trust layer, a public ledger built on Hashgraph.
Okay, it looks like we are down to the final seconds here.
3, 2, 1. Open access.
The network is open. As of this moment, we have council member nodes online, ready to take transactions from anyone, anywhere in the world.
Since open access, Hedera has witnessed exponential growth on the network, with billions of real-world transactions, hundreds of applications, and tens of thousands of ecosystem developers. The Hedera Council has gone from strength to strength, growing to 29 members on 6 continents, stewarding the network responsibly and ensuring its longevity for generations to come. Hello, future.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me today, and thank you for joining the event. So it's really nice to be here with you guys. So for today, let me give you a quick introduction about Hedera. My name is Pathorn from Hashgraph. I am a developer advocate from Hashgraph. Basically, Hashgraph is the company that's behind the Hedera network. So for today's session, I will give you a brief introduction to Hedera network. Basically, just kind of like letting you know what is Hedera, what we do, and who are using Hedera at the moment. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions after the session. And yeah, without further ado, let me get started. So first, what is Hedera? Before I jump into that, I just want to highlight a fun fact about Hedera. So if Hedera is the most used layer 1 DLT network out there in the market. So if you go to realtps.net, basically it's a third-party website where they kind of like capture the number of transactions from a lot of DLT network like Solana, Hedera, Binance Smart Chain, Polygon, so on and so forth, right? If you go to that website and take a look at the information, you will see that Hedera right now is number 1 in terms of number of TPS. So basically right now, I think we are sustaining around 1,000 to 2,000 transactions per second. So which means that we are the most used chain out there in the market. And the reason that we are sustaining a lot of TPS right now is because we do have a lot of use cases built on our chain, right? So what exactly is Hedera network, right? So just want to give you a brief description about what is Hedera network. So Hedera is a fully open source, public, distributed ledger technology. So basically, we are not blockchain. We are DLT. It's kind of like similar to blockchain. We can achieve the same thing, just the different type of technology. We running our own Hashgraph consensus algorithm, which provide you fast, fair, and secure consensus mechanism. That's why we are very popular at the moment. Our network also very flexible. when we talk about blockchain, DLT, right, we normally talk about, smart contracts, so on and so forth. On Hedera, we are quite different. Instead of offering just one smart contract service, we offer 3 services. We offer Hedera token service, Hedera consensus service, and Hedera smart contract service. So compared to other network, normally other network, they offer just smart contract service, but on Hedera, you have more options. So let me give you some high-level overview of what is Hedera network look like. So at the bottom, you can see that we have the network itself, right? So we have what we call Hedera Governing Council. You can think of this Governing Council as like a board of director of Hedera network. They are the one that support Hedera. They give us directions. They give us support. They also build a lot of application on our network. And they are the one that run each one of them, each Hedera Governing Council run their own nodes. So basically, I will talk about our Hedera Governing Council later, but basically they are world-leading organizations such as IBM, Google, Standard Bank, Shinhan Bank, so on and so forth. These big organizations are backing up our network and running a server to provide a service to the end user. And on top of our network, we have 3 main services. We have consensus service, we have token service, and we have smart contract service. So basically, we are quite different, right? So not most of the network out there will just offer one, which is a smart contract service. So if you talk about blockchain and you want to build something on it, normally people have to learn how to develop a smart contract, so on and so forth, right? It is quite a burdensome and it takes a lot of time to learn a new languages, learning a new concept. So we want the network to be more usable for the user. That's why we offer two more native service. A consensus service basically is a service that you can keep any message on it. Think of it as like a blockchain web board where you can create a topic and then you can put any message or post any message to that topic. So it's super simple. You don't need to write any smart contract. If you have a very simple use case, for example, you want to put some data on blockchain and want to improve transparency of your application, you can just simply use smart contract, the consensus service. Or if you want to create a tokens, let's say if you want to issue your own token, fungible or non-fungible, you can use our token service. Basically, you don't need to write any smart contract. Just submit one transaction to the network and boom, you get a token. Maybe it takes you just a few seconds or minutes to create a token. And if you want to do traditional way, like writing your own smart contract, you can also do that using smart contract service. So we are not only usable, we are also flexible. And as an end user, right? It doesn't matter if you are a developer or if you are a user, we welcome all of you. We want to be a chain for everyone. So we support many use cases like process integrity, identity, tokenization, payment, so on and so forth. So we have a lot of use cases on our network, like supply chains, cross-border payment, games, DeFi, so on and so forth. So basically anyone can build an application and use our network because we are a public network, right? So let's talk about our governing council. So our governing model is quite different from other network. So normally in other network, right, they don't have this big company behind them. So we are very different in that we have a very strong governing council. Basically, we get this big company to support us by joining our network. So each one of them, the logo that you see here, like Aberdeen, Australian Payment Plus, Boeing, Deutsche Telekom, DLD Piper, IBM, Hitachi, Google, Dell, UCL, Nomura, LG. So this big company, they are a part of our governing council Basically, they are the one that give us support, give us direction, and they also run a node to provide a service to our end user. So as you can see that we have a very strong governing council, and because they are want to use like our really scalable technology. And why we have a lot of big company behind us as a governing council is because we have a very, I would say, very scalable technology compared to other blockchain out there in the market. If you take a look at, Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? Bitcoin right now, I think it support around 7 transactions per second. Ethereum, they support around 30 to 60 transactions per second. But Hedera is quite different. We are much more scalable. We are very confident that we can support up to 10,000 TPS in the current state without any optimization at the moment. Right? If you go and take a look at the TPS, real TPS, you can see that we have been sustaining around 1,000 to 2,000 for more than a year without any problem, right? And if you take a look at the cost, the transaction fee, you can see that we are much cheaper and much more affordable compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum. You might ask, right, why we can provide such a low price? The reason is that because we are scalable, right? If you think about demand and supply, if you have enough supply, you will be able to bring down the price, right? And, satisfy the global demand of this kind of technology. And also talking about, the confirmation time. When you use blockchain, normally, in some chain, you have to wait like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or even hours on Bitcoin sometime for your transaction to be confirmed. But on Hedera, once you submit a transaction to the network, your transaction will be confirmed within 3 to 5 seconds. And there will be no chance that your transaction will get reverted. So you get the finality on your network faster compared to other networks. And finally, we are very energy efficient. Bitcoin, that is consuming a lot of energy. Ethereum also. But if you take a look at Hedera network, we are super efficient because we have our own Pathorn technology. That's why we consume very less energy compared to other blockchain network. Actually, we are one of the greenest network out there in the market. So yes, that's kind of like a brief introduction of our network. Feel free to let me know if you guys have any questions. And yeah, thank you for your time and your attention.
Thank you, Pathorn. It was a insightful session. Anyone is having any questions? Okay. I think, yeah, you made it quite clear and helpful in understanding more about Hedera. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Pathorn.
If you have any, if you want to know more about Hedera, I would like to invite you guys to visit website hashgraph.com and learn more about our technology and use cases. And yeah, feel free to reach out after the event as well. And thank you so much, everyone, and have a good night.
So hey guys. All right, before starting the conversation and like telling you about what is NuChain and all about of it, I want to, give a little bit brief introduction about myself. So I know right now Web3 is a very vibrant space and a lot of new innovations are coming in. But when I joined Web3 4 years back, I knew Web3 makes shitload of money. But what attracted me towards it is the impact. So the underlying technology, blockchain, is a very powerful technology, is what I believed. And it was one of the first reason I joined the whole Web3 ecosystem. The thing is, the use cases are yet to be discovered, but I was lucky that the first blockchain that I kind of the implementation of the blockchain, the use cases of the blockchain that I first heard about were in the areas of supply chain, were in the areas of trade finance. So that kind of got me interested into it. And the way I'm going to talk you forward for this particular product is going to be more towards the impact of it and how it is going to impact our everyday life. Okay, so let's talk about NuChain. So at NuChain, we have built one of the fastest blockchains in the market with a TPS of 2 lakh. We are a layer 0 blockchain. By that, what I mean is, like, if you heard about Cosmos or like Substrate, they are the platform on which layer 1s and layer 2s are built. So NuChain is all about that. One more thing is, NuChain is not typically about building their tokens and like getting it into market, raising a lot of money and those kind of things. Yeah, we want to earn a lot of money, but we also want to explore the actual use cases of blockchain. So we believe that cryptocurrency is just like the 2% part of it, the whole blockchain ecosystem, and we are here to explore the rest 98% of it, the unexplored territory of blockchain, which holds a lot of potential for the institutions and enterprises. Okay, moving forward. Okay. So yeah, we are the fastest blockchain in the market with a TPS of 2 lakh. Not only that, we help you build any solution on blockchain that might be layer 1 or layer 2 within a period of just 10 weeks. First of all, I wanted to just know, like, am I audible properly? All good, right? Great. Okay. So we help you build highly customizable blockchains within a period of 10 weeks, and that to one of the sophisticated blockchains on the market, whether it is layer 1, layer 2, or a dApp, or a scaling solution, whatever it may be. If it is blockchain related, we are the ones who can help you out. Now, other than that, we are offering one of the lowest fees in the market on the blockchain. It is somewhat close to Hedera, but lower than that. And we are very focused on the compliances. Because of that, we are a crypto-free platform. There is no cryptocurrency going to be launched on NuChain itself. Now, NuChain is backed by 2 VCs. One is NuFi, and then there is Block on Ventures. It's our accelerator, so it will be helping us bringing partners and the foundations and the meetings. And then we have our ecosystem partners, the Web3preneur, who will be helping us expand through our events and meetups and partnership opportunities. Then for India, what we have done is we have partnered with Franchisee India, who will be helping us spreading out our franchisees for our validator network. So we are at very early stage of deploying our own blockchain. We are not too early, but I will say we have launched our beta and we are going for our mainnet. Quill Audit is the one who is doing our auditing for NuChain, and at token 2049 we are going to launch our own blockchain. That's the area we have chosen for our big launch, because come on, token 2049, that's the event where it all started, right? So other than that, we are, since I told you that we are in our beta phase, we are building our validator network, and we adopted an approach in which we are using Franchisee India to spread awareness about the validator network in India and telling people about how you are, doing validations on a blockchain and how you can contribute to a network. So the traditional investors can now be onboarded on our blockchain using our validator model. Next slide. So our vision is very simple. We want to build top blockchains on our on our platform, on our infrastructure, that is NuChain. Since we are layer 0 blockchain, we want to build 100 blockchains on our platform in 3 years, 20 blockchains within the first year. We want to be enterprise and government focused for those. Next year, 30 blockchains. Next year, 50 blockchains. And we want all of those blockchains to be highly reputed and exploring one of the most difficult use cases of blockchains and becoming unicorns. Okay, next slide. Okay, so let's see how we solve traditional blockchain problems. The thing is, yeah, we know that blockchain is coming and there's an adoption going on, and it's a very innovative technology. It's a very futuristic technology. But what we are missing is, since there's a lot of interest in the market, people have already developed solutions. We have so many great minds here, innovative minds here, who are coming up with their own solutions for blockchain. But now, what we believe is the time of refinement already. Okay, so let's start with the congestion. So due to the low network capacity, enterprise and governments who are doing data heavy operations kind of feel obstructed with implementing the solutions on blockchain. That is the research that we have done for the enterprise and governments and institutions. For that, we are bringing high transaction volumes, that is of high throughput with a 2 lakh TPS. Second one is high transaction fee. Now we are playing on the scalability side, so we can afford to put a low transaction fee system that we will be seeing in the coming slide, that is of $0.0001. Just now we saw Hedera. There is a competition, but we are much lower than them. Now, about the scalability, we have devised an architecture in which we are doing a horizontal scalability that allow us to do unlimited scalability. We have done a modular infrastructure architecture. With that, the throughput is there of 2 lakh TPS, of course, but the infrastructure itself is able to handle it with a, in a way that the congestion and the crashing does not happen of the existing validators. Then, of course, the time. So typically when you go for building your own blockchain, first of all, usually people don't go for directly going and implementing their layer 1. First, they think about the product, they think about the ecosystem. It is usually a dApp. Why it happens is because typically it takes 1, 2, or maybe 3 years to deploy your own layer 1 blockchain. We want to empower those innovators by providing them NuChain, which helps you deploy a blockchain in a period of just 10 weeks. So you come to our platform, you state your requirement, we take 10 weeks and we deploy your own blockchain, and that too the fastest blockchain in the market. Next slide. Okay, so these are the key verticals in which NuChain is targeting the enterprise and governments. Let's start with government, that is e-governance. We have banking, finance, travel, RWA, gaming, entertainment, and tokenization, covering up a $80 trillion market industry. We are covering the Web2 crowd itself, and we want this adoption to be accelerated. Next slide. Okay. So we are projecting a blockchain technology market with the enterprise itself of about $3.3 trillion. That is just the blockchain industry, if I even don't include the Web2 market. Next slide. So you can see the competitive landscape here. About NuChain, we are kind of going to be a private blockchain. All the validator nodes will be captive and will be handled by the company operators itself. So we kind of lie in the private blockchain area, but we also compare us with the public blockchain. We are the fastest blockchain of 2 lakh TPS, and the Solana you can see here in public blockchain has a benchmarking score of 65,000. So you can say at even our normal speed, we are hitting a target of 100,000 TPS. Next slide. Okay, so these are the existing platforms, and what I want you to see here is this particular area of TPS. So on an average, the private blockchains in the market, which are mostly used by the enterprise and governments, are of 30 to 300 to 600 TPS. That's it. The thing is, right now, if you see the coin market cap or the explorers which are showing the transaction its speeds, it does not go more than maybe 1,000, 2,000 or something like that. Maybe that's because we are not having enough capacity or not enough users who are doing transactions on the blockchain itself. And there are multiple blockchains which they're using. But when we talk about enterprises, I would like to highlight one of the use cases that NuChain has already seen, that we have researched about, that happened in India. So Telecom Regulatory Authority of India implemented blockchain on the telecom systems in which they are using data storage technologies, which is handling their sender IDs, user IDs, your SMS phone call data. Now, the TRIC came up with a regulation in which all your data records of those sender IDs and user IDs needs to be moved to blockchain. So one of our partner companies called T-Ledgers deployed that particular blockchain for them, digital ledger technology that is handling 600 billion transactions a month. So we want to target these kind of people. So when you are comparing it with them, 1000 TPS or like 10,000 TPS looks nothing. We are talking about millions of transactions and billions of transactions. Next. Okay, so this is what our offering is, and this is what we are coming up with, the NuChain blockchain itself. Then we have a platform called NuCode. It's a proprietary platform that helps you build the blockchain in 10 weeks. Then we have our validator that I've told you already about. It's a franchisee based model, and franchisee India itself is helping us distributing it throughout India. It's a very simple model in which you just have to register. The technical team will be connecting with you. It will be helping you set up the validator node. So even if you're technically sound or not, you can run a validator for us. Then we have NuChain wallet, of course. The thing is, in NuChain wallet, we are talking about the platforms or the projects that will be building on us. So whether it is Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever NuChain is later going to support, or its other layer 1s or layer 2s that can store their cryptos in that. Because NuChain is not going to have a cryptocurrency. We are going to use a model of AWS. They have AWS credits. Like that, NuChain is going to have new credits. Each new credit will be equal to $1, and it is not going to be listed in any marketplace. Next. Okay, so let's talk a bit detail about our services, that is e-governance, banking, finance, RWA, gaming, entertainment, and tokenization. Next slide. Okay, so let's talk about e-governance. So as I told you about the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India solution, we saw a real world implementation of blockchain. Now, if you kind of go deeper into that, you see in India, we did the research. We saw that in more than 15 plus states, in more than 20 plus use cases, blockchain has been already implemented, and those are all government funded products. Let's talk about the time of Google and Facebook when they were like in their early stages, and they were like selling it to the enterprises, and they were like trying it out, and Microsoft were there, Bill Gates was pitching it to the people. And at that time, they had to sell the technology. Now, I want to do a comparison with that to now. You can see here, not only they are implementing the technology, but they're paying for it. There is no need to sell. They are themselves investing in that particular technology for the government. Next. Now, coming to banking and finance, talk about cross-border payments, talk about supply chain, talk about CBDCs. The thing is, we don't want people to like focus on one particular use case, but we want entire supply chain to be coming on blockchain. We want entire trade finance cycle to be coming on blockchain. That is how the real solutions are provided to you. Next slide. Then coming to gaming and entertainment, you must have heard about AAA. That's AAA rating games. That is like whatever it is, like maybe God of War or Dota, whichever require high processing graphics. That kind of games are not possible on blockchain right now because it's just too heavy for the chain itself. So what they're doing is they're putting it off chain. They're doing all the complicated stuff off chain, and they're bringing the heavy transaction stuff on chain. So that's what we want to do. We want to support those kind of chains, those kind of projects who are looking for high throughput, high graphic activities. That's where high processing will be needed, and that's where NuChain will be supporting them. Next. Now to the travel industry. Travel is a very unique use case. I mean, you know, your entire ticketing cycle, your loyalty programs, your luggage tracking can be done on blockchain by us itself. The thing is, nobody is exploring it much in the travel industry because the use cases are not figured it out. And if they're figuring it out, there's a lot of data that needs to be handled as when it comes to the customer side. There are a lot of oracles will be required when you are bringing data from the off-chain to the on-chain. Be it Make My Trip, be it Trivago. Entire app data, entire backend can be handled on blockchain. With that, you bring transparency and permanency to the traveler records. Just imagine if you interact with that kind of data and you can optimize your model in suggesting what kind of cycle your customers were using and what kind of trips or packages you need to suggest next. Next slide. of course, then RWA. Proudly, I would like to say that NuChain has acquired one of the first licenses in Dubai, one of the early licenses in Dubai to actually deploy a RWA project. So we can legally deploy any tokenized asset that is a real world asset and sell it on a marketplace as a real world asset on blockchain. With that, RWA, I think, is the upcoming sector in which a load of investments will be done. If you see the graph, earlier there were just shares of the company, then came in the stocks, options, futures, and the derivatives are there. After that, we have cryptocurrencies, and now they're moving forward in a way that the physical assets can be built on chain. It's a very high potential area in which you can expect a lot of growth as the fractionalized assets will be explored. Suppose you fractionalize maybe a real world asset like a real estate or maybe an apartment. Apartment of 100 rooms fractionalized by users. Suppose how OYO can utilize this particular example of fractionalized ownership of hotels. They can implement it worldwide and do the cross-border payments on the blockchain itself with least of management, highest efficiency, and highest of securities. Next. Now, tokenization, of course, tokenization, I believe, kind of gives you a power in which, like, if there are assets which you can't even think of how you can monetize it from, tokenization will be one of the solutions. I mean, who thought utilities can be tokenized and a liquidity factor can be added into them? That's what we think of tokenization when we adopt it with NuChain. Next. So this is our roadmap. Our initial phase development is done. We have our platform expansion and all the modules that are being launched to be prepared, and we are now moving towards our mainnet launch that will be in token 2049 Singapore around September 18. After that, we'll be commercially active and we'll be onboarding clients and leading projects. Next. So right now, this is the ecosystem that we have. We have some RWA projects, we have marketing, we have DeFi, and we are also exploring some AI projects. For acceleration also, we are looking into some partners. Next. So to give you a brief introduction about our team, the board members, we have Jagdish Pandya as the CEO and the founder. He has been in this industry for 15 plus years, was an early investor of Bitcoin, and has been a very active player in the industry, building his networks and running his VC for the past 6 years, majorly in the regions of Singapore, Dubai, Malaysia, and India, and secondary markets of Indonesia, Vietnam, and Hong Kong. Then we have Mr. Captain Ajay Alawat. He has been a military veteran. He was very much involved with tech in his time, and he has seen the potential of blockchain in the government area, and that's where we are going to utilize him for our expansion and partnerships in the government regions. Then we have Arjun Mishra. So the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India solution that I was talking about earlier was built by Arjun. So that solution is running for past 5 years, and it is one of the most successful implementation of blockchain. Of course, you must have heard about one more use case of Vajra, the blockchain that is being used by NPCI, the UPI app that you use. So the solution was built by JustPay, and the senior architect of that particular technology was the senior architect of NuChain itself. So we are in a very specific direction of helping scalable enterprises and government solutions, which requires high throughput. Next. So I will be sharing you this deck for all of you. Maybe I can ask the team itself to share it with you all guys. You can check out our white paper, light paper, and the documentation. And we also invite you, if you are interested, you can roll in for the validator model, and we can help you out about how you can become a validator of NuChain itself. Next. So, the stage is open for questions. Any questions, anyone? All right. Okay. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, Praveer. So it was good to see world's fastest blockchain, NuChain, and building right from India. So getting to the next part of the session, we have a panel discussion. So would love to have all the panelists and moderator over here.
The panelists, we have Hasan Ansari from Shardeum, who heads ecosystem and investor relations. We also have Semi, who is a founder of Spawn Point. And we have Anurag, who heads business development at Quill Audits. We have Santosh, who is a co-founder of Foundership. So these are our panelists for the day, and I'm Rangashree, and I'll be moderating the session, and I lead partnerships at Securr. So to start off the session, we would be asking each of the panelists their question. There are questions that could overlap, and there could be 2 or 3 panelists answering the same question. I think I'd like to start with Hasan, where we'd like to understand what strategies do you employ at Shardeum to foster ecosystem partnerships and investor relations?
Hi, everyone. So ecosystem partnerships is basically comprising of many factors, right? And it includes not just reaching out to companies, partnering with them. It also includes fostering the developer side of things, the community side of things, the user base, right? So there are some, I'll just make it easier for you. It's like bullet pointers I'll talk about. First, I would say is we nurture the developer crowd really well. We have hosted many hackathons, created a really good community in the past couple of years, and we will be encouraging that more in the coming few months as well. And by not just hackathons, grants for ecosystem projects, stuff like that, you know. And another thing that is more on the lines of what NuChain talked about is bringing real world businesses and applications into Web3 sector as well. So partnering on those sectors, not just from Web3 companies, but encouraging and creating that environment where the support is prominent. Developers feel, okay, I'm building something that will be utilized by someone. And users will be like, okay, I may not know the tech, but I'm getting real value out of it. So aligning on these particular morals and seeing and aligning on these visions, right? That is where we are headed. And when I reach out to people or connect with people, I see if they're aligning on these morals and values. Because if these values are not aligned, it does not make sense to just announce a partnership for Twitter's sake, right? So you have to do something about it. And that is where I would say that these strategies has helped me previously when I was Graviton as well, and currently with Shardeum as well, is focusing on what your long-term visions are and what your morals are. And these are the key pointers, I would say, yes.
Perfect. I think my next question, even Santosh could probably throw some light on it, as well as you, Hasan, is how do investor relations in Web3 differ from that of traditional sectors, and how does fundraising as such work in the Web3 space? Like, how different is it from the Web2 space?
Great. Great question. So I think, in Web3, you have one of the biggest advantages. You have early backers, right? So in Web2, you need to go back to your friends and family, and that is a very limited set of people. But in Web3, literally, you will have look at how much of support Ethereum has got from all over the world. Imagine a protocol in the history of mankind, right, that has got this much of support, right? And just not Ethereum, even every new chain coming in, a bunch of communities coming out helping you. Now that is a great signal, because a lot of times the Web2 VCs don't get that. They only say, oh, can you show me your 100 customers or 10,000 customers or some volume, something like that. Web3 gives you the power to bring community as your power factor for VCs to move, right? So they can move faster. Even in the same thing that we do at the accelerator program, any startup that comes in and have the community as a traction, we give them the first preference, because we think that's harder to build. And you can't just copy paste and community thing. It's a very hard thing. So that's one. Second, as an investor also, they know that there are multiple liquidity options available, right? In the world of Web2, only you have to go to Series A, Series B or an IPO, then I get a 10x. Yes, we are still early in terms of real big, sort of implementation of blockchain systems with millions of users being using it. But having said that, the Web3 investors are more confident that I'm going to get some liquidity options much earlier, right? So I'm comfortable because somebody else has given me money. Some LP has given me money. How do I give the liquidity back to them? I think that's a bigger problem now in Web2, right? Everywhere, right? If the money is flowing in, all great, like we see in COVID, suddenly the money is not flowing in. How do I give back to my LP? So we believe, having a Web2 founder also, we totally believe that the world in the future, for the next 50, 100 years, is going to go in this direction. Whether we do DAO, whether we do in a legal way of it, I think community participation, having an early liquidity is the way to go. Web3 is showing the direction there, right? That's a quick summary, but I'll let Hasan.
Yeah, I mean, given that Santosh has built his own startup in the Web2 space as well, I mean, he gets that proper, direction of what has happened and what is happening currently. And I completely agree with you. Even when with the Graviton, we notice when projects were raising funds for themselves, right? It's very different. Like one thing, the fastness of Web3 is very different. So a Web3 VC would be very willing to take a look at your deck and see, okay, if we are aligned on this or not. And maybe in 2-3 months, maybe they might invest in you. But in Web2 sector, it takes a long time. And with the concept of tokens coming into picture, it's not just equity now. And how will that work, Then regulations, all of these things comes into factor. So investor relations is a bit different from these from the Web2 and Web3 world, and tackling them also is a different how you tackle it, how you approach it. Raising, suppose you're helping a Web2 project raise funds, you'll have a different strategy altogether. And for Web3, you'll have a completely different strategy. For Web3, you might find VCs who are more catered toward a particular sector. Let's say you're building a gaming application. You would want a name which has invested into the gaming sector. You wouldn't want anyone random on your cap table, right? And similarly, like lot many things comes into these factors. And Santosh, you might know, like when we were helping the projects from our cohort raise, right? Not just what you're building, what your idea is, but also how strong the team is, right? It's not only about the revenue traction or the growth metrics. Those things matter, true. In the long run, it matters. But Web3 VCs will be more willing to take a bet on you based on what you have accomplished, what your idea is, what you're trying to break the current fabric of the universe, as I would put it out, like what innovative thing you're bringing out in the field, the first mover advantage. So those sort of thing, like it's very interesting to sort of venture into this space. And I genuinely love when I was starting out. So I started my journey as investor relations. So when I saw this space, I was like very intrigued on how their people are functioning, reviewing like a lot many. I mean, you must have reviewed so many techs in your time, right? Me as well, like, and whenever you see something innovative coming up, you're like, oh, this is going to go really good. And that ends up happening. So if you're building, just build through it and you will automatically see the difference.
That's amazing, like good insights. So I'd like to understand what are some of the criteria that you look into promising startups, and what advice would you give to Web3 startups seeking investment?
Okay. So when we were looking at applications for Graviton's cohort, I'm talking from my past experiences as well. And it's not too different from when we see from Shardeum's perspective also. A founder who is really good, has a really good team, right? A very good technical team or whatever you call it, a team. It plays a really strong metric. Because if the idea needs iteration or changes or pivoting, they will be able to. A founder who has failed doesn't necessarily mean he's bad. A failure teaches a lot many things, and that founder is resilient enough to build through the bear market will automatically end up something really good. So having a proper set of good team is a very good metric. And apart from that, you have to focus on, let's say, what your roadmap will look like down the line. And one major point in Web3 specifically is what Sanket also mentioned was, and those basically is the community side of things. If you do not have a strong backing of community or a product that a community would utilize, you might fail, right? So having a team, community, having good tokenomics if your product is into the tokenomic space, then these top 3 criteria is something I would say. Apart from that, there are many pointers which I'm pretty sure you'll be able to help out more in this.
I think, fantastic for a lot of devs and builders and founders in the room to hear it out. I think in Web3, as Hasan just now talked about, key points that generally applicable whether you do Web2, Web3. one of the most interesting in Web3 is because every 12 months or so, things changes, right? What was the NFT great? 2 years time, it's not great.
The narratives.
Yeah. How, in the Web2, you need to be agile. As a founder, you need to be agile. There is no way, right? We are no longer in the world where it is done, dusted for 10 years, you can be the king. No, you'll be thrown out. So agility is must, but in Web3, I don't even define what agility is. It has to be power n of something, right? N is something. Because you are going after certain things, suddenly a new chain comes in, changes the entire ecosystem, a new narrative comes in. The VCs themselves might have predicted that a ecosystem is not going to take off, it's taking off. How, as you said, how agile you as a team to navigate and quickly find your right direction is going to be the biggest space. Because ultimately, you have built a great community, you have built a fantastic product, but if you are not agile enough, you will be thrown out, right? So you also see those factors. For example, one of our startup, Jot, J-O-T-H, Preetham, which Hasan knows, and had worked in Graviton too, very agile founder, right? Moved 4 or 5 times, when it took off, RWA. We have seen them with just a plain paper coming in to now having multi-million dollar, sort of TVL is a great example of those factors being looked by Web3 investors much more. Is this a team? Can it compete with a global? And Web3 is global out of the box. It's irrespective whether you are building out of Bangalore or anywhere else, it's global. What you building, somebody else is going to build with the same market space. So you cannot, claim that, hey, we are doing a great job, because you will be seen at the same globe. Web2, that was not the case, right? Web2 was saying, oh, this is copied, we can do an Ola here. I'm like, no disrespect to Bhavish, what he has scaled, but that's the nature of the Web2 investors. In Web3, they are saying, is this a team? Can they compete with a global team? Right? So your scale is a global. It's a very different outlook as such there.
Got it. Since we are talking about Web 2 to Web 3 transition, I think, Anurag, I'd like to ask you, you've been working in the Web 2 space and transition to the Web 3 space, and now you're a part of Quill Audits. So could you throw some light on what is the difference between working in Web 2 and Web 3, and what best approaches have worked for you in the Web 3 space with regards to business development?
Sure. I think the biggest difference is how different the work culture is in Web3. I think Web2 is very restricted, right? So when an industry scales and matures, it eventually has a lot of rules and regulations, and that's what will happen to Web3 also. When it reaches a stage where billions of people are using it, it will also become restricted in terms of you'll have defined roles, So, okay, if you are a business development manager, you're doing this. But in Web3, like you talk to the founder, you talk to the dev who just joined, all of them are doing all the roles, because it is very, like Sir said, it is global number one. So no matter where you are going, whom you're talking to, you will always be talking about your protocol, what you're doing, what problem you're solving, not just what tech you're building, right? But on a different level of what you're doing. So I think that's where the biggest difference is. Coming to strategies that I think are very different in Web3 compared to Web2, I genuinely believe that BD in Web3 is very broken. It's, I think, because of the fact that BD has become this thing where few people joined in, did good BD, got some tokens, and those tokens exploded, and now those guys became rich. So the entire ideology of building relationships, fostering relationships is something that I see very broken. And that's something that's changing now as the younger generation is coming in and they're realizing. I think that's something that I actually tell my team as well to work around. It's not just that, okay, yeah, go sell and do it, but also build relationships that last long term. You never know. You talk to a person today and they're just launching their chain, and 1 year down the line, they could end up your biggest client, right? So because in Web2, you have defined funnels. I have done multi-million-dollar sales in Web2. So we had to have, defined funnels. Okay, this quarter, this quarter, this quarter. And also how you generate those leads, how you build those relationships. But here, for all I know, when I'm going to token, maybe wahan pe kisi cafe mein I'll find a lead, or in an auto rickshaw I'll find a lead, right? Unlike Web2. So I think a couple of these things are very different compared to Web2 and Web3.
That's pretty interesting. So I also came across that you're an avid traveler.
Yeah.
And I'd like to understand how best do you leverage these experiences with fostering meaningful relationships in the Web3 space?
Oh, that's a very easy one to answer because I'll just give you a live example. I was in Thailand, I think in February. Yeah, February, and we were chilling in Koh Samui, and there was a party that I attended. And Thailand has a lot of Web3 crowd, by the way, if you guys don't know. So I just met this one guy, and we were having a couple of drinks, right? And basically, we just ended up talking, and I did not even know Quill Audits back then, by the way. We just ended up talking, chatting, and when I joined Quill, I just pinged him saying that, hey, what are you guys doing? And that guy, I think, connected me to some 3 or 4 big-ass names in the Web3 space. So just a guy I met on a random beach party, right? So I think that helps quite a bit. For me, because it's been professionally, I think about 2.5 years in Web3 on and off, I see the Asian markets being much more open and accessible compared to the Western markets, because now Western markets have reached a stage where all the people who made the money have made a smaller circles and kind of migrated away. You know, like more of them are in Puerto Rico, some of them are in Mexico. So I think Asian markets have a very, very good and vibrant ecosystem for travelers like me. Like I can literally find, I think, a very good crowd anywhere, even in Vietnam for that matter, you know. May not be as big and as rich as the Western markets, but you never know, after 10 years they might be, right?
That's pretty interesting. So I'd like to understand, since that we are talking about Asia being the biggest market, and there are definitely obstacles in the Web3 space. So I'd like to understand from your perspective, how can Web3 professionals navigate through these obstacles and make a better place to survive or to build?
I think, and this is something everybody has told me since I started learning about Web3, we need to go beyond just making money, right? I think everybody who joins this is like, oh, I'll invest in this and I'll become rich. The day we solve that problem by positioning the technology before the price of the token, I think is when we would have at least started winning the game. Right? That is number one for me for sure. And second, obviously, one of the biggest challenges on the consumer angle of things, I feel, is the entire user experience for crypto. And again, that is something like the 1990s of the internet era, right? It will take 10 years to evolve and come. Because if I tell anybody from outside, if I call somebody in and if I tell them, hey, do this transaction, this is how it's done, they will cry because they are so used to UPI, right? Now, if I tell them to do this transaction, for them, it's such a big barrier, right? So a lot of such UX challenges on the consumer side of things needs to be addressed before we can at least talk about mass adoption. You know, we can solve for things on the enterprise scale. We can solve for things on, let's say, on the technology side for B2B businesses. But until and unless we solve it for the consumers on a mass scale, adoption is never going to happen.
Awesome. I think we'll move on to talking a bit about gaming from Semi. So Semi, with your experience as a founder of SpawnPoint, I'd like to understand from your perspective, how do you see Web3 technologies develop, particularly with the gaming sector?
So as I've experienced like in Web3 gaming for the past like 2-3 years, like it has always been play to earn. And like that is one thing I feel that is broken about Web3 gaming. As a gamer, as an avid gamer, I've always experienced the fun of gaming is what draws gamers to gaming. And in play to earn, it's always like you have farmers, really airdrop farmers and all. That's the attention span. They have less attention span. They invest in games just to get their outcome from it. So while developing SpawnPoint, my focus was offering flexibility plus like onboarding Web2 gamers. So what we actually do is like offer like the flexibility that average like normal Steam, Epic Games don't do, which is basically they have a set barrier to buy games. We offer session-based services so that, yeah, like when you're joining Web3, you get a good even Web2 gaming experience, but it's very flexible because obviously the payments in Web3 is pretty easy. You don't have to just pay one time. You can have a streamlined payment method, and yeah, like, and also one more thing is the amount of transactions in the gaming sector. Like, for example, Genshin Impact, it has one of the highest investments in gaming. There are so many transactions happening, but they don't have any base. If you bring that on crypto, it's just gonna like increase the economy a whole lot. Like a gamer doesn't care that he's buying Valorant coins or it is like just a back-end Valorant coin or it's a cryptocurrency. The gamer doesn't care when he buys a gun or something like that. But for the crypto industry, for the economy to flow, there is a huge market there that I believe that could connect Web 2 and Web 3 gaming together.
Perfect. So I also came across that you're an advisor of CatOff. So I'd like to understand what are your learnings being an advisor to CatOff and how do you see the intersection of gaming and Web 3?
So basically at CatOff, like the motto is that like settling wagers on chain, like there are, I mean, everyone has experienced that you have a bet with your friend and they never pay you again. So basically, CatOff at CatOff we target a real life problem and like kind of bringing it to the masses. But yeah, like to bring it to mass adoption, like make it a handy tool which everyone can use. We need like Web 2 to like support, Web 2 users to support, to bet in somewhere in a bar or something, to bet on it. So we mostly focus on virality there. And yeah, basically to bridge Web 2 to Web 3, we need like viral content. So yeah, I believe that like tech is content. So that's what CatOff aims to do.
Awesome. Now, I'd like you to throw more light on what are the trends and innovations that you see in the Web3 and gaming sector, the intersection of it.
Okay, so as you asked this question right now, I mean, if it was like a few weeks back, my answer would have been different. But right now, I'm a very big Blinks shipper and like basically mass adoption. And if you know about Blinks, it's basically bringing all of your blockchain transactions on Twitter. And with that, that's like trending huge on Solana right now. But like with my team, I'm trying to bring it to EVM too. And so yeah, like it's really an hype. Blinks as a tech, it's very on hype, and it also focuses on tech as content. You don't need to navigate away from your social media to try stuff. We're trying to build, if you could, for example, try some game directly on Twitter, you don't have to go to their website to try games. That's super easy onboarding, super easy, attention like grasping. So yeah, like social platforms which are already built, like Farcaster, the issue was like getting navigations to Farcaster. But Twitter, we already have the audience. So why not just take that audience and give it to like the gaming sector or the event sector? That's why I ship Blinks so much right now.
Thank you for your insights. Now we'll move on to Santosh and we'll talk a little bit about Foundership. So I'd like to understand how does Foundership support Web3 AI startups, and can you also share some success stories from your experience?
Yeah, sure. So when we came up with just to give a quick background, right? I've been a founder for a long time. Started up in India in 2008. So today we all use Luma to register. Way back in 2008, if I take you on a time machine, it was Explara, which I started up, India's first event ticketing platform. I ran that from 2008 to 2020. This is pre-angel list, pre-investors, and I can tell you 4 VCs in India at that point of time. Now, if I fast forward today, right? So when I was starting up in Foundership, being a founder, I realized that, how do you do it efficiently so that as a founder, you get maximum value, right? So I'll first talk about what we don't do, right? So a lot of times in the accelerators, again, not to demean, not to tell anybody that they are not doing good or not doing good. Everybody has a model. We realize that we don't want to do master classes, right? So we realize that if somebody is building out a startup, if he's building a startup, I'm building a startup, Hasan is building a startup, there is a context to that startup. I'm building a gaming startup for this. I'm building a DeFi for that. Now, as a founder, they're smart. That's why they are founders, right? So you don't have to say, oh, we know it. Accelerator doesn't know. VCs doesn't know. Your mentors doesn't know. Your coaches don't know. As a founder, you know something. So we realize that we design a cohort model. We do 3C, coach, capital, community. We say that bring contextual coaches. If somebody is building out a problem statement, they know what is their OKR or goal. Bring coaches to that point to say, what should we do together so that you hit those goals? let's say 10,000 community, 25 partners, getting liquidity in the market, getting KOLs. What do you need, right, to go from stage A to stage B? Even if you do, you may fail, but what would help you to go there? So that we bring it out. That's the coach part of it, part of the program structuring. Again, we didn't want to do something that I always tell to founders, don't catch me for a coffee in that 20 minutes. I can't tell you something is going to change your life. Not happening with Mark Zuckerberg also, right? So hence we say, what is it for Hasan to or Anurag to spare time if they don't have an upside? So all our coaches at Founderships are given some part of the equity or token that we take from the founders. Right? We're saying, I'm nice, I'm great. Hey, Santosh called me, I'm going to spare time. No, don't, it's like the famous dialogue, right? Don't do any meherbani on me kind of thing, or on the founder. So you as a coach, you engage, you give them a good direction. If they succeed, we succeed, right? So we do that upside. Second is, as we talked about community, I've also seen that every successful product, we say, has a distribution or needs a distribution. So we say the same thing for the founders. Every successful founders needs a great network, great community. While we encourage you to build your community, can we give you a community? So that's why we went out and created Blockmate. Even we continuously create a lot of community outreach to say, if you come to Foundership, we'll plug you a 10,000 member community. Beyond that, what you do, it's one thing to have a food. The other thing is to eat the food, right? So if you don't eat the food or you don't know how to eat the food, I can't help you. But distribution, right? So that's the second community. Third is capital, right? We worked with Graviton, with Hasan and earlier and many other ones to say, how can you bring investors to relationships so that when I reach it to you, let's say you as an investor, you say, okay, I am aware of you, right? So we bring this kind of contextual, which is how Foundership is now getting a lot more chains and blockchains and partners coming and saying, hey, we'll work with you. To having said that, we are still on the 0.2 days. We still have a long way to go. But I think we are kind of like enjoying this process of being with the founders and helping them out. We will have our own success, such as Joth is a great example. Pritam is doing what? Circle of Games, Najara invested. We have Turf, where Trapper Ventures have invested. We have around 46 founders in 6 cohorts, and 12 of them are doing good. We will have at least 7 to 8 token launch whenever the market comes in, either in the Q4 of 24 or Q1 of 25. So a little bit, kind of like took long time to answer it, but my intent was to help the founders or the audience here to understand how we do it and why we do it.
That's amazing. You did mention that you started Explorer. So I'd like to understand from you, how different was it to run a Web2 startup as compared to a Web3 startup or accelerator?
I'm enjoying it, right? That's the shortest answer. I struggled it because 2008, I bootstrapped out of London, sitting in London, I had a company in India, and it was the first startup right? And I had failed before that. This was pre-angel list. My friends didn't know what is he doing up to today. If you ask anybody to write $1,000, $5,000, they'll do an angel list or angel, that point of time. I had hardest time. There was no community as such, right? Because, way back, if I take you 2008 years, there were a bunch of, startup communities, but the community as a tone, like today you can ask somebody to review your smart contract, a bunch of people to review your smart contract without expecting something, right? Because they think something is going to happen, right? Or some karma is going to come in. With the Gen Zs, that has become the nature now, but that was not the case earlier, right? So when I was building a Web2 startup then, and when I'm building a Web3, in fact, Foundership is also my startup in a way, right? So when I'm building Web3, I'm so fortunate that we are able to collaborate, co-create with a lot of other communities. We don't compete, right? With Graviton, we don't compete, we co-create. We help the founders to succeed, because ultimately if the founder is not succeeding, we are going to all go to zero. With Quill, we do partnership with many things. So I think this is how the world should have been, right? And I think this is where we are heading to. I'm sure AI and other things will come and learn from it. Hopefully we will be able to take something from the Web3 and give it to the rest of the world. I think this is a strong differentiator. Even if somebody is building, some of my friends are building, just to add one more pointer, some of my friends are building an accelerator in SaaS, accelerator in AI, and we are going to start in October, November in AI, by the way. I bet you the model we will pull it out nicely, because there is an inherent community that I've learned out of Web3. The Web2 guys don't get it.
Hello. Yeah, I completely agree. So one point that you mentioned, and even Anurag that you mentioned, Web3 has been incredibly supportive. So when I started my journey as well, I got in with the same mindset of making money by trading. Then I got to know about the tech side of things. And this was 3 years back, and everyone was insanely helpful. People I still meet, and there is no distinction of how young you are or how old you are. It's about what you bring on the table, and that's always fascinating to me. Like everyone will take their time and explain okay what they're doing, and will be very interested in what you are doing, and it's all goodwill. And that's like the support system that insanely boosts you. There is no competition. Even right now, if you open Twitter, you might see chain wars happening and stuff. I don't agree with that. I feel like for the Web3 ecosystem to grow as a whole, everyone needs to understand what USP they are bringing and collaborate together instead of competing together. So what you mentioned, sir, that's absolutely on point, and I completely agree with that.
Thank you.
So I think the last question for the evening, or more like insights for the audience to take back, would be, where do you all see yourself, or where do you all see the Web3 ecosystem grow from today to a few years down the line in your respective sectors? So maybe Santosh could talk about foundership, you could talk about gaming, Hasan could talk about ecosystems and investor relations, and Anurag could talk about business development.
Sure. I think I was actually talking to some of the OG BD folks, luckily on Twitter, because of some of my friends. I got connected to them and we were discussing this, right? So what do you think would be the future where your projects in Web3 would follow? What BD strategies for user acquisition, for partnerships, or whatever it is? And I actually told them that I think सारे taglines हटा के एक नाम रख दो, relationship officer. Because what a DevRel does is what a BD does, is what a partnerships guy does, and actually a founder also does, right? So I think for me, I would suggest in my ideal best case scenario, the advantages of Web3, which is being open to building relationships, accessibility, I would want to combine them with some of the old good to Web2 strategies as well, which is basically nurturing the relationship, building that long-term commitment rather than just focusing on closing one deal really soon. I think we are not there yet, especially some of the I would say nascent projects where it's very young guys. They don't understand that it's not just the next 1 month or the next 6 months, right? It's potentially the next 10 years. So I think that's where we are heading to slowly. And as the industry matures, that's where I would want the BD side of things also to be.
Just banking on that statement again, it will be interesting. One word would be definitely interesting, and we'll see a lot of confluence of many things, like you mentioned, AI, blockchain, and traditional tech, whatever it is. The term Web3 will sort of be a blanket term for multiple things. That is what it is. And currently, one of the major things that's stopping this insane boom is the regulation. So once the regulation starts evolving, right? And currently, everyone is working some way or the other in terms of the what regulations there is already in place. And once we have a streamlined version of it, we'll see insane amount of liquidity flowing in. We'll see a lot of progress. We'll see adoption from a consumer side of things, and also the already established enterprises coming into this side of things. So then the ecosystem partnerships, or how you mentioned, the relationship manager. So it will be an umbrella term for a lot of many things coming in. And this space that we now are talking, we're sitting, we will look back and reminisce that, oh, it used to happen like this back then. Because then everyone will know what it is, what is happening, and what will be coming. And I would still say that we're still very nascent and it's still a long way to go. Especially, he will be answering on gaming, but I know that the games, Genshin Impact, I have personally bought stuff on there. CSGO, I used to trade skins and all. Not just that, but the game playability. With the GTA 6 coming up and the new games in development, the movies, the IPs and whatnot, right? So a lot many things will be changing. And agility, as so you also mentioned, right? We have to be very agile, and that's the future I'm hoping for. But I'm very, very positive, and as you all say, bullish on it.
Yeah. So as Hasan mentioned a little about gaming, obviously, I wanted to talk a little about how mass adoption will go on. Right now, we just saw the boom of deepins, and they are all focusing on some of the sectors of which are already there. I mean, yeah, they're very hard around regulations, obviously, but people are working on things which are not Web3 centric and somehow finding insane amount of tech in that, like maps or even VPNs. Like, so these kinds of things, if they have the real like decentralized, like for Web2 folks, like blockchain is just a buzzword. They just think like it's just about some, like, either they think of it as crypto, it's just a currency that just is so volatile, or they think it's just an immutable thing or something like that. But it's so much deeper than the tech is so much deeper than that. Deepins are showing that it can solve so many real life problems. It can. And obviously the gaming market, the like depth of transactions if it's brought to our the web on chains, obviously. And as you know, like if one chain goes down, I mean all of them go down, right? So everyone is going for all of our Web3 folks are co-creating, as you said.
Great answers there. Very good depth to hear each of them. So I think in terms of where we're going to see it, right? I still see we are still debating about TPS, right? So I think we have a fantastic decade ahead. And I was just telling two folks there in the DevRels and fresh folks, right? To say that Web3 is a much bigger career today for the next 10 years to come, because you have such vast problem statement, right? So if we go back to the very core of blockchain is that we are saying, hey, it's a value internet, right? Which is where we are going to realize the value, transact the value, store the value, and carry the value, right, forward. Now, if you do that suddenly, and as Hasan talked about, and I think Anurag also pointed around that, both in terms of value creation and ability to retain that the user can any real time interact with it, right, with some definitely secure, protected, and all that, you have a massive trillions of dollars of economy going to stand on top of that, right? Yes, it may not, and a lot of technology don't remain in the same way that we all feel about it, that, hey, it should be puristic sense like the trilema of the world and all that. It may not be, but if you go back to the consumer, the user point of view, saying, what am I doing for the user? Is he getting a value here with the systems, with supporting whatever I can support? Like, nobody in the future is going to like a system that is not secure. Right? Today also we hate when somebody gets hacked, smart contract does bad job, we hate it, right? So I see that the next decade is going to be much more powerful systems. We are at the cusp of a fantastic TPS systems coming across, both in the private and the public blockchain, with all the Mega, the Bera, and the Monad talking about it, and Solana is already doing an awesome work. So we are at the very early stage. Just build is going to be my thing, and don't lose your sort of trust that you can build. Going to plug on Anurag's point there. I think in any industry, if you're the earliest guys, the only value that you're generating for yourself, not on the blockchain, is relationship, right? If you can't, you're gone, you're screwed. No matter how great you are, you're not going to get any back-end support or forward support. So we are looking at a fantastic decade with even AI coming in. We're seeing a lot of new technology getting built that we would not even imagined. Oh, is this possible?
I mean, like he said, like when he started talking about tech, I'm saying like user experience. I think down the line, like all of the user experience that Web2 has will just transition into Web3. You won't know the distinction between Web2 and Web3. And still, right now, people, like, one of the things that is transactions, people are building, like my team here at Wallet.x is building a gasless wallet, which is like, you don't need to have transactions at all. Like the barrier between Web2 and Web3 is like the transaction complex and all of these things. So much tech is coming. The user flow is getting enhanced. So yeah, like that's one like wonderful thing about Web3. The tech is.
Thank you so much, all of you, for your insights. Pretty insightful session. I'd like to understand if any audience have questions for the panelists. No questions? Okay, thank you so much, everyone. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much, Rangashree. Thank you.